Why does it do that? Why does it do that? Why does it do that? That's not the way I wanted it to go. I wanted it to go like this and then go like that. But whatever.
It's like a time of charm.
Today's not going to be the technically perfect day, even though this is a dry run for our premiere TGRA show next week. We're doing great. We started 5 minutes late. What's that?
I said it's a Friday. People are chill today. It's fine.
No, I'm sure people don't care. But I mean, when we go on a radio show, we're gonna have to be on time. We can't be late. So there's that. I gotta check my input now on my microphone because
it sounds like it might be the wrong one, but
I think you're right.
We can hear you.
Right, rather. There we go. That should be better. Much better.
Yes, much
perfect.
Better.
Cool. This is why I need you guys here. Hello, good morning, good evening, good day, good afternoon, and aloha. Welcome back to another episode of the Unidentified Celebrity Review, your home for credible news, reviews, and commentary on everything UAP and UFO. My name's Luis Jimenez. My co-hosts, Ratherby Squidding and Michael Mataluni here for our last show of the week, and it has been a pretty busy week, gentlemen. Pretty damn busy week indeed. Before we get started, let's pay some bills. Want to, of course, remind you guys of our podcasts. You can find them both on Spotify and iTunes, and wherever you find wonderful podcasts that you listen to. Just search Unidentified Celebrity Review, and we should be the first thing that pops up. Of course, if you want to support the show, we've got a Patreon, anywhere from $1 to $500,000 a month. If you got the guts, go check out the Patreon. The beautiful thing is, everyone who contributes to the Patreon, nobody gets special access or early access to shows. Everything's provided for you as we do it. We try to keep the shows as accessible as possible. So if you do the Patreon, it's because you love us. And of course, super chats are always open. So if you got a burning question that you just have to ask our guests, get it in there in the super chat. We'll definitely ask it. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. That way, anytime we go live, you guys know about it and you are informed.
Like yesterday.
Yesterday we went live, impromptu multi-guest panel show that turned out to be one of the best shows we've done. I would really enjoyed that show. And then, of course, we've got a merch store. We've got all of our links down below with the link tree where you can find all of these wonderful ways to contact and connect with us and interact with the community around the show. So also, real quick, want to say thank you to the sponsor, BlueMountainChronicles.com, purveyors of the world's finest fishing tackles since 1995. And, of course, I want to say thank you to DOS Tapes. Speaking of, they provide all the tunes that you hear on the show. Their Bandcamp link is in the description below. So, gentlemen, how we doing this Friday?
Good. It's Friday. I mean,
Friday, man.
You know,
doing well.
We made it.
Killer shows yesterday on the Singularity Lab and UCR. It was a cool day yesterday.
It was a cool day yesterday, Michael. How'd your interview go? I watched some of it.
It was good.
It was very technical.
It was very. That's an understatement. Yeah. I was doing my very best to just stay, to try to understand what exactly he was talking about from a deep physics perspective. But I would think I was able to follow along. It was a fascinating interview.
I think he made it easier for me to understand. That's for sure.
I helped myself for sure.
Yeah.
I was like, after every thought, I was like, so now can you explain it to the layman?
Yeah. No, dude, it was awesome, man. And yeah, we had a killer show with, we had John Greenwald, Mick West, Jeremy McGowan stop by. Zach Saichi hung out for the whole 2 hours. It's
awesome. Like Sesame Street for UFOs. It's fantastic.
Yeah. God, which character would I be?
Who are the people in my neighborhood?
Yeah.
Who would you be?
I mean, probably the Cookie Monster.
Cookie Monster.
Just because that
I think
seems
I would be
like the best one.
I think I would be Gordon because of my bald head. Remember Gordon?
Gordon.
He's
the scientist?
No, he was just one of the regular characters on Sesame Street when I was a kid. He was the dude with the bald head.
I liked Animal a lot.
I like Animal a lot. Band.
Who is Oscar the Grouch? Is that Vic West or Jazz Shaw? I can't really decide myself.
That's Jazz Shaw.
I'd say Jazz Shaw.
Jazz Shaw.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Oscar the Grouch would be Jazz Shaw. I think, Are we really doing this? Is this what we're doing?
We're really doing this?
Grover was fun. Somebody said in the chat. Thank you, Robert. By the way, hello to everyone in the chat. Matthew Wright, Boss, UFOT, all of you guys that are here, truly appreciate it. Tina Tomaszewski, our moderator. Thank you, my lady, for being here. So, guys, today's going to be a conversation with Melinda Leslie. Now, I know Matthew Riot's head has already exploded in the chat. People are already screaming for blood. It is like a Roman mob in the chat. And all I'm going to say is be respectful. If you've got a question and it's a tough question, put in big capital letters respectfully, and then insert your question. And we will try to get it whether it's a super chat or not. There's going to be a lot of stuff that Melinda Leslie is bringing to the table through her research, her experiences. And so we're just going to try and provide a platform where we can listen, maybe learn some things, but also push back where we think there needs to be some pushback. So that way we can keep our guests as honest as possible and also just try to provide the best information for you guys out there. We don't want to be a blowhorn for bad information, but we want to listen to all of it. We want to hear what everyone has to say. Just be patient. Today might test some patience for people in the crowd. If you are easily triggered, maybe don't watch today's show. Maybe don't watch it. Because like Michael Huntington, he's like UFO tours, period. I think that's going to be a lot of people's sort of like the UFO tours. If you can, rather what I'd like to do, because she says that everyone who goes on the tours, there's I think maybe been 2 complaints in the up-teen years that she's done. I don't know exactly. We'll ask her. But I'm wondering if we should Yelp it. If we should see, what people are saying outside of the website.
Yeah, I looked her up on Reddit, and there are a lot of posts about people who have gone to her tours, and they are impressed. They see things. And I think, my question is, are they seeing aliens and UFOs, or are they seeing something, prosaic? And, maybe it's misunderstood as unidentified. I think that it'll be very interesting to try to get to the bottom of whatever's going on here.
Yeah, no, well, she's got a whole presentation for us. She's running a couple minutes behind. She got stuck in some traffic, so she's literally firing up her computer and getting all of her stuff ready to go. So when she comes in here, we just got to give her a minute to set up.
From Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan, for the $5 super chat. You guys made NY UAP discussion delete his Twitter account. Well done. I don't want to take credit for that. I don't want to take credit for that, man. I feel bad for the dude.
Well, I listened to that episode. You were a little. I don't think that it's a fake video, right?
Right.
There seemed to be a little bit of discussion about whether it was a fake or not.
Yeah,
I don't think it's real, but I don't think it's fake. I think it's interesting. I'm glad that he put it out there.
Yeah, I'm glad he put it out there too. Like, I'm grateful for the footage because, again, like we use it as a learning moment, as a learning tool, something that we could compare the really good videos to, and say, okay, this is definitely much better than this. Like
it's a control group that we could share, that we could actually compare the good videos to. That was ouch.
Well, here, dude, but I'm sorry, that's where we're at. Like, we have to have a higher standard.
When McGowan called it a potato, that was my favorite moment.
That was hilarious. But I mean, we don't like, again, more data is more data is more data is more data, and more data is a good thing. And so when we get stuff like this, we have to be able to manage our expectations, take a big deep breath, and make sure, okay, what are we looking at? And is it a game changer? Is it the piece of evidence that's going to change the world? And in my opinion, when I walk away from that video, I say no.
Well, I would definitely say that the rubber ducky has some excellent overlap with our Sesame Street conversations.
Oh yeah, Bert and Ernie. Maybe we could be Bert and Ernie, you and me, Michael. Let's get a bathtub. Let's get a bathtub. But it is funny. As soon as our show was over, his account was deleted. I mean, dude, I hope our episode didn't make him delete his account. He didn't delete his YouTube channel. He's still got that up, and so who knows? Maybe he comes back to Twitter and I mean, it's a tough pill to swallow, dude. I would not want to be in his shoes today. I can tell you that.
Well, we can focus on the video and not focus on the ad hominem attacks, right? We don't need to assassinate anyone's character. Let's just focus on the data.
I mean, he did make it a little tough on himself. He was pretty bombastic about it at points. And I think Twitter's very good at making you take your own medicine. They make sure that if you're going to dish out some medicine, you're going to get some medicine back, and there ain't going to be a spoonful of sugar with it. You're going to take it raw. And so, I think that's kind of what happened. But even with that said, I still feel bad for the dude. I wish people weren't so damn hard on him and just more focused on the fact that, hey, UFO Twitter just possibly uncovered a drug smuggler, like that's pretty cool. Like, worst case scenario, that's really, really cool. And then
I'm a libertarian when it comes to drugs, so I don't find it as cool, but go on.
Well, what I'm saying is like that video would have never seen the light of day if it wasn't for UFO Twitter. And it's interesting to see, hey man, like, did UFO Twitter just kind of reveal a drug smuggling operation or route or technology maybe that we should look out for? I mean, again, that footage can be compared to other videos that the DHS or other parts of our military apparatuses, they can take that and say, okay, let's compare it to this. Does it not fit what we see here? Or maybe they can figure out what kind of drone or flying apparatus that thing was. Like, all of those data points are valuable, no matter how you slice it. And anyway, so we have a $1.99 super sticker or super chat from Haley Masbrook. Thank you so much, my lady. She says, happy Friday, right back at you. Melinda Leslie is in the house. Shall we get started with today's guest?
Absolutely. So for those of you just joining us, if you're not familiar with our guest today, Melinda is a UFO abductee contactee and has been in public life for 30 years. Her 32 years of abduction research, along with her lifelong personal experiences, have been featured in over 30 books by prominent authors in ufology. Ladies and gentlemen, Melinda Leslie, how are you doing?
Oh, very good. Sorry, I had some traffic getting in here to my office. I try to use my office for interviews because the internet connection's better. And anyway, so there we go. And I had some traffic getting in. So hi, everybody. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Hi, Melinda, welcome. Hi. So glad you're here. I'm glad you got here safely.
Thank you. Glad to be here. I'm excited.
Okay, so you're bringing the data today. That's the thing that you kept telling me in our personal chats is like, I've got some data. And then you also was like, I want Michael there, and which I appreciate. I appreciate that because Michael's got a really analytical mind. And I also love when Michael's here because he helps us, stay as grounded as possible a lot. And that's what Rather does as well. I'm the guy who's in the clouds all the time. And these guys are my weights to bring me down. So let's do this real quick before we get started with everything, because I know you also have a presentation that you want to share. So let's go ahead and see if we can share that and work through that technical issue.
Now, how do I do that?
No problem. So there's a share button at the bottom of your screen. There should be a share button.
Okay, I'm going to bring up what I want.
Okay.
Part of it is getting in here and turning on the computer and doing all this. We were going to be ready and raring to go on this, and unfortunately, it just didn't happen that way.
No worries. This is life. This is how it goes down. First world problems here for the audience.
Yeah, that's right. Oh gosh, how do I make that? Okay, close that. Okay, there we go. And so I have it up. Now I need to go back to you guys. Okay. Nope, that didn't work.
And you'll see a little share with a little TV and a plus sign at the bottom.
I lost you guys. Where are you on my screen?
We left.
There we
We're
go.
done.
Okay.
Yep.
There's that. Okay, now I got you guys. And share. It says mute, stop cam mic, share. There we go, share.
Boom.
Share screen.
There you go.
Share screen. Okay, now how do I see how that looks? I can just open up like that, I guess. Get this out of my way.
It should pop up on our screen when you
way.
share it.
Cancel on that. Okay. Did I just cancel it? Are we still sharing?
We haven't seen it pop up on our end yet.
Yeah, maybe try again. Try to go ahead and share it again.
Oh, it hasn't? It should be there.
No.
Oh, it's okay. Oh, because you know what it is? It's bringing up, so there, I guess, but then I don't see you guys or anything. I guess that doesn't matter. Does that work?
You
no?
should be able to see us, but it's okay.
Yeah, which you might want to, because you got one screen, right, Melinda?
Okay. Well, it's bringing up like so many windows. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm saying share. Okay, where's share? Share.
Then you should see a blue button that says share screen after that.
Cancel that, then share. Okay, well, it's a little window that comes up that says video file or share screen. So then I hit share screen.
Yeah, share screen.
And then it says share screen, big blue button.
Yep.
Okay.
And then it might say allow on the top of your
not bringing
screen.
up the presentation.
Allow StreamYard.com to share your screen. Do you see that at the top?
No.
Interesting.
No, it doesn't. Huh.
Well, let me ask you this, Melinda. Is it a file?
It's bringing up a little window that has other little windows in it. Well, it's the PowerPoint. And I have it up on my screen.
Okay.
And, oh gosh, you guys, I'm sorry I don't know how to do this.
That's okay. We'll work. We lost her.
Oh, no.
We've all been there.
It's all good. It's all good. We'll
feel like we should do a little dance for the crowd.
Yeah, we might.
Turn back DOS tapes back on.
Have her. We'll have her maybe email one of us the file, and then we.
Oh, that's the way to. That's the way to go.
You know,
yes.
So that way, because you can email a PowerPoint file, right? Those aren't big files.
Rather, did you kick her out?
Rather.
No, I would never do that.
Rather, did you kick her out?
No, of course not.
All right, let's see. Let's see if we get back. Hopefully, right? Let's see if we can get her back here. I'm sure.
Why don't I share the rest of her bio while we're at it?
Okay,
Melinda is also an investigator in the UFO field with 32 years experience as research individuals involved in its cover-up for 30 years. For over 10 years, she's been the owner of UFO sighting tours in Sedona, Arizona, where she conducts 1,415 tours, where she has conducted 1,415 tours with the use of military night vision goggles. Melinda's well over 9,000 tour clients have felt they've had true UFO sightings. Wow.
I'm going to try and call her and see if she can. Oh, there she goes. She popped in.
Sorry about that, guys.
No,
I don't
it's
know
okay.
What's going on here. I mean, I'm doing everything. I say share at the bottom.
Yeah. Well, how about this, Melinda? What if you emailed us the file and then we can?
No, you guys, it's so much. It's like a whole PowerPoint, and my email doesn't like to do that. I think share screen is best if I could just figure out how to do it. Okay, so I'm hitting share at the bottom. Then it says share screen. Then the big blue button comes up.
If only you could share your screen and show us what you're seeing.
Yeah, I think on that second thing, you have to actually select something like what you're going to share. So do you select like your screen or the window there?
Okay.
You will see a pop-up that comes up that says allow StreamYard to see your screen, and then you'll need to choose the window you want, and then you'll have to click allow.
Well, when I hit share and I hit share screen, sorry everybody out there, it says screen sharing is easiest with 2 monitors. Screen sharing works best. Some screens let you share. And then it says, don't show me these tips again. And then a big blue button that shares the share screen.
So when you click that big blue button, you should see another pop-up at the top of your screen that says allow StreamYard. It says
choose what to share.
Yes. And so you want to find the screen that you want to share.
Okay. Window, maybe. It says entire screen.
Yeah, entire screen. Just do entire screen.
Oh, okay. Hang on. It just gave me something different. Let me do this. Okay, I just said that. Okay, so I've marked the presentation.
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
There we go.
All right.
All right.
Okay, now how do I see you guys? Oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
Take your time.
Oh,
we're here for you, Melinda.
It's not going anywhere.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to diss to your audience. It's just very
It's all right. We got an hour and 36
Trust
minutes.
me, the audience has been subjected to way worse than this. Pretty much every episode.
Okay, now how am I going to move through my PowerPoint?
Okay, what I would do.
Can you click on the slideshow?
Yeah. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Well, 2 of my slides, because I think anyways, I took a bunch of things from 3 separate presentations to put them together for everybody today. And one of them is an old presentation, I think in an old format. And when I go to actually view the slideshow, 2 of the important graphics don't show up. So I'm going to do it like this. But does this look okay on your guys' end? The way?
Yeah, it looks great.
Okay, very good. And I see you guys here. Okay,
Perfect.
very good. Okay. Maybe
All right, so
use
floor's
this.
yours, Melinda. Whenever you're ready, we're on the edge of our seats. I can't
Awesome. Okay, if I need to bring
we
this
do have a
in.
$5 while you're getting that ready. We do have a $5 super chat from Alex
Okay.
Crudup. What's up, my dudes? Happy Friday. No problem for the delay. We love hanging out here. You see, Melinda?
See, they're so sweet.
You're
All right.
sweet as hell.
Now what? Did it go away? My PowerPoint?
It did.
Shoot. It says I'm sharing.
The screen's still there, but it's just black.
It's black now.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Could this be the first slide we're looking at? Just the dark screen?
No.
Okay.
Looks like Susan
I have
Goff
the
got in
first
here and
slide up.
redacted it all.
No, shoot, I had the first slide up. Gosh, this is. I wish they'd make this stuff easier. I had the first slide up.
Okay, no worries.
Okay,
There
there
it goes. Now we
got
see it.
now.
Okay, you know what? I'm
I
going to
think-
leave it like it is. If I look good
Yeah.
on your guys' end, because
You look great.
you're just seeing my thing and our faces, correct? That's all.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yep. I see your face, and then I see the PowerPoint presentation with slides 1 through 8, the mini ones, and then the main one that says evidence for ET abductions.
Okay,
and
very good. Then I'm not going to mess with it.
Yeah, I'd say go from
If
there.
it's on my end, it's not. On my end, though, it's not bringing up. Come on.
When you press the different, can you just like point to the different slides?
Yeah,
Here we go. I think just click on them on the left
Okay.
there, and it'll bring it up.
It's wanting you guys in a separate window than everything else. So I'm not going to argue with it on my end, as long as it looks good on your end.
Yep. looks
Okay,
good.
sorry about this, everybody. I didn't know this was going to be this weird. Okay.
Thank you, Humley, for the $10
All right.
super chat. Appreciate it.
Okay, so everyone, we're going to jump right in. I'm getting into
Okay.
evidence for ET abductions in my labs. When Lou discussed with me having me on again, I said, hey, I really want to cover the evidence because I can tell that, I want you guys to know, I want your audience to know. I figured this is a real teaching opportunity to get into this. So I'm going to just plow in. Now, I'm not giving a lecture, even though I have like PowerPoint up, but it's just because I realized there were certain text things I wanted to be sure and hit,
Right.
combined with, and by the way, you guys, thanks so much for having me on. I'm so sorry about
Yeah, no,
hitting
thanks for
traffic.
being here.
My intention was to be here like 15 minutes early. It's just crazy. So I, yeah, thank you. And so I decided there's certain things I want to know, I want to cover with you guys and educate your audience, your listeners about, and then as well as, I really wanted to be able to show pictures of evidence because so much of it is visual. So that's why I decided to do it this way. But I'm glad we worked it out, all the bugs aside, but we're just gonna be short on time, but that's right. Keep moving. So first I'm just going to start real quick with what happens in an ET abduction. Now, you guys, because it's not like a lecture, I'm interviewing with you guys. I want you, Lou, Mike, rather, to Jeff, definitely jump in with any questions or comments so we can have a discussion. There's a bunch of things that I can rip through that don't require a lot of explanation because they're kind of self-explanatory. But so
I
first
think
I decided to start.
just go through it as you go, and then we'll just
Yeah,
ask questions
yeah.
as we go. It'll be
Okay,
nice and
okay,
nice
very good. So what happens in an ET abduction? There's the taking of ovum and sperm, and as it says here. Now, if people can't see this, what I've written, whether they're watching on their phone or it's just small on their screen, whatever, I'm going to read through stuff. So
go ahead.
Don't worry. If anyone who can't, like on their phone or something, I'm going to read through it. So the top 10 common experiences reported in an abduction event. One time I did this whole series of lectures called the top 10, like top 10 evidence, top 10 things that happened, top 10. So I did this whole one on top 10 in alien abduction. So that's what the slide is from. So number one, and these are the typical things that happen in an experience. The taking of ovum and sperm, ovum from women, sperm from men, hybrid presentations, being shown hybrid children, testing and emotional reactions to situations. The ETs test and see how you react to whether it's earth changes or scenes of violence or, etc. So those kind of things are very common. These again are these 10 things are the most common things. Now, to anyone out there who's an experiencer, abductee, contactee, if I'm leaving anything out, I'm just trying to give what the overall research says. So I can't get into all the minutia, all the details. So I apologize in advance, because people are going to say, oh, she left out this and this and this, and so I apologize in advance. I'm just going for the most common things that all the research organizations agree with. So testing emotional reactions, that's psi training and testing, of psi and mental abilities. So these are what the ETs are doing with people. Medical procedures done, biological samples taken. I'm going to get into the scoop marks and other marks, but those kind of things, biological samples taken, and a whole huge variety of medical procedures. Healings performed. This is a major part of the abduction scenario and contact scenario, and it's not often talked about. There's a great author, Preston Dennett, who does, and I recommend you guys have him on, all about healings. His work on it is so good, and he's written books about it. But there's a lot of healings that get performed. Everybody goes to the negative on alien abduction stuff right away, and people don't know. I'm not saying that there aren't traumatic experiences or fearful things. Yes, some people have that, and some people it's their reaction to the event versus maybe what's actually going on. Initially, my experiences were remembered with trauma, and then over time, like John Mack talks about, Dr. John Mack, of course, Ralph Blumenthal wrote his recent book, The Believer, all about. But as John said in his books, it's a very transformative experience for the most part. And so the more someone lives with it, the more they learn of their experiences, the more memory they retrieve. It ends up, for most people, being a very, very transformative experience. And you move beyond the trauma. But I realize the initial recall, like it was for me, can be very traumatic. And I won't rule out some people continue to have experiences that they react to in a traumatic way. I think it's really important that people get some kind of therapy about their experiences and work with a trained, whether it's a hypnotherapist, a psychotherapist, or both, but I'll get more into that in a little while. But so psi training and testing, like I said, then medical procedures, healings performed, technology training or demonstrations. For example, operating technology and flying or navigating the craft or the ship, very, very common in experiences. Anyone who follows Grant Cameron, he talks about this often in cases that he's worked with, but it's extremely common. Being downloaded with information, sitting at a computer screen and having learning at some kind of console or screen, maybe a keyboard, something like that, or maybe it's just operated with the mind, often the case, and learning or testing. Number 8, there's assisting or teaching other abductees or hybrids. This is very common that people are put in roles of helping or teaching other abductees in the event. teaching or instructing the hybrids in some way, whether it's children or adults or both, And then 9, ET, alphabet, symbol, and mathematical formula trying. I underlined in each one kind of the main thing here. So the underline is like the title of each bullet point. So, but alphabet, symbol, and mathematical formula training being shown, alphabet, letters, words, symbols, and often mathematical formulas, that they're obviously showing this and teaching it to the abductee. Now, often the abductee doesn't know what they're getting or why. There's some very famous cases of this and people who became of interest to certain government people and related to that, who became of interest because of their mathematical formulas they were getting, as an example. And then 10, earth changes awareness or demonstration of environmental and care for planet. So care for the planet awareness, the title of that one. You can be shown earth changes, demonstrations of things going on with the earth, environmental things, the way we're harming it, that thing. And that might be part of, with the sightings, and they're interested in nuclear stuff is its effect on the environment, as well as its effect on the population as a weapon. So those kind of things seem to be of interest, not only in the sighting events that we're familiar with, and the nuclear missile and nuclear base, sighting events, but it's also very common in the abductions. And sometimes in the abduction events, the nuclear stuff actually gets addressed directly, as opposed to just earth changes or concerns of destruction. Sometimes they'll actually get into that as well with some people. I should probably eventually add that onto the slide. Okay, now here's just some really quick pictures. These are out there in the research. A few of these in here are my cases. Some of them are not. Rather than go through that, maybe if it's specifically a case of mine, sometimes I'll mention that. Or
Are you claiming that this is a real photograph of aliens here?
No, God, no. God, no.
Okay.
No, this is clearly artwork.
How did you gather that from what she was saying, rather?
Yeah.
She said they're photographs and evidence, right?
No, hang on. This is not evidence yet. I'm just giving drawings and pictures that are examples of the things that happen. But it's a legitimate question, because based on the way I worded it, I could see what I rather wanted to clarify.
I got a quick question on number 7. I've seen a UFO. Yeah, on the last slide. I've seen a UFO before, and within this last year, I had this this download experience almost. And Michael was there when I had it. I mean, he wasn't there in the room, but he knows when this experience happened to me. I had a very hard time articulating myself as to what I was seeing within I don't know, I'd say about a 2-hour time frame, where it just felt like it was literally connected to me. And I was just being downloaded all of these images and things that were going to happen. And it was wild. And it all had to do about, our show and stuff. But
sure.
But have you ever heard of anybody experiencing something like that outside of these craft?
In contacts or sightings, a lot of people feel they get downloaded or have a psychic connection. In fact, it's extremely common, and it's understood that when you have a sighting, there's a consciousness interaction. I always tell my clients on my tours, my UFO sighting tours with military night vision, I always say, what you say and think matters, and the attitude of my clients directly affects the amount of sightings and the experience we're going to have. And those with the most positive attitudes tend to be better nights, for sure. And it's a little more complicated than that, but that's oversimplifying. But yeah, there is a consciousness interaction. A lot of people have sightings, feel they get downloaded, or downloads after the event, whether it's immediately after, like you, or in the days and weeks to follow. Those are all very common.
It wasn't as it was happening, or even shortly after. This happened. I saw my event when I was 13 years old. I had this download just this year, where I call it a download. It was a lot of inspiration.
And there's also psychic receiving of information that may not be related to
Mhm.
a sighting or having an experience. You know, in other
Got
words,
it. Yeah.
I mean, I do readings. People have spirit guides, and they receive information from them and from higher beings, and that's a whole nother topic. But it's understood in, you know, psychic phenomena, getting downloads or information or insight, inspiration. You know, a lot of the famous inventions and music and artwork, the person all said, I had an inspiration, I was downloaded with it. That's commonly shared. So without a doubt, that's, you know, that's very common. It may not be related to anything UFO wise. You know, you could have been having a profound moment of psychic insight, in other words. Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean it was awesome. Let's just start there. But it was very, very difficult again for me to like articulate my experience and sort of how it felt and what was happening. And it was you know, I'm not, and I'm glad you touched on this. Like, I don't know if it was aliens, but I do like to say the way it was best articulated to me was inspiration is not original thought.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So you had a moment of inspiration and insight from the collective unconscious, the collective subconscious, from your guides, from your higher self, from ETs. It almost doesn't matter the source. The deal is, what did you get? And most importantly, Lou, what did you do with the information?
Yeah.
You know,
we went 5 nights a week, baby.
Yeah, we went yeah.
There we go.
This is it. Yeah.
There you go. Okay, so you guys, let me get through these. Let me speed this up, because I've got I have a lot to cover. But Lou, I honor your experience, and thank you for sharing. Okay, so being awoken or startled, paralyzed in bed is often how the experiences can begin. And then I'm wondering if you guys are, there we go. I can make this a little better, because I realize you're seeing my screen, so you're getting all sorts of weirdness.
No, it looks great.
Okay. So period of missing time, for instance, while driving, you can be at home, you can be doing a variety of things, but a period of missing time, and this is just an example from someone's experience. Again, this is artwork, but these are done. This last one here that I just showed, and this one, are done by either the experiencer or an artist for them. This person who had this experience that this picture is happens to be an artist themselves who drew this of their event. And then this is by Kasara Dennett, who's a famous artist in the field, does drawings for many people and used in many books. This piece of artwork, and but this is like a typical scene of medical procedures being performed. Now, this is my own drawing, drawn, as it says at the top, November 28th, 1990. Actually, it was drawn, as it says to the right. So the experience was November 28th. I drew it on the 5th of December because I kept thinking about it, and I said, I need to draw this. And here I am. So again, the reason I'm showing this is to say this is common in experiences like walking around the craft or being shown the craft by the ETs.
This is the craft you saw? This is from one of my experiences, and I was shown this section of curved hallway. I'll read it here. The curved hallway on board a ship with the inset screen. You can see that down low there. Appearing, so that there was a screen inset into the wall, and letters and symbols appeared on it. And the hallway led to a room where I would be then shown a hybrid daughter for the first time. So this is my first hybrid presentation. Yeah. Oh, you guys, there's I haven't begun to blow your guys' mind. Not even close. Not even close. Okay, here we go. Oh yeah, I have a sneaking suspicion. Okay. So this one then, this is, again, my drawing, drawn at that same time. So December 5th, about an experience that happened November 28th, 1990. So common, again, I just use my drawings as an example of what happens to other people, because I have it, having ovum or sperm taken, and then
And then, right then, or at a later date, a child presentation. This time they took over from me, proceeded to show me, as it's labeled in the drawing there, an empty crib, and then said, we'll do this again. And then they brought in this hybrid girl that appeared to be 5 years old. So it's my own drawing of that. And again, November 28th.
Can I ask you a question
But
about
I'm
these
saying
drawings, Melinda?
this is what other people typically have. Now here's drawings with similar events with other people. Go ahead. Yes.
Wait, real quick, but so it's something that's coming up in the chat, and people are curious. The drawings that you had of your experiences, did these drawings come out of regressions, or did they come out of just
that was conscious memory? No,
okay,
those were conscious memory.
Okay.
My experience is some of them remember fully consciously. Some of them I have bits and pieces of memory, and I get regressed. Some of them I have physical evidence, but no memory. So then I'll get regressed because clearly something happened, or witnesses, and then so I always have a reason I go get regressed, like a partial memory, evidence, a lot of memory, where I'm wanting to know those details. So I'm not just going saying, I want to know if there's an alien abduction. I think that's dangerous. And I don't know if it's dangerous. I just think it's too tricky, too problematic. But I recommend to people, if you have that missing time, if you have that physical evidence of marks on your body, and you want to know where it came from, that's where the regression can really help. Or if you have bits and pieces of memory, like a lot of people remember the very beginning of an experience, being taken and then nothing more. Or some people remember being brought back at the end and nothing more, So that's
so these weren't these memories weren't drawn post regression. This was something you did before you.
Those two drawings I just showed were fully, and some of my drawings are post regression, and some. But again, see, I'm not just getting regress. It's because I have physical evidence, witnesses, partial memory, bits and pieces. It's because I have the bits and pieces, and I want to know the details. I want to know the part I'm not remembering. So that's where. And regressive hypnosis, you guys, is just somebody relaxing you, that you trust them to lead you through a relaxation process where you then allow yourself to remember. They're your memories. They're there already. You can do it with self-hypnosis, and you can do it with great therapy, like NK. I heard her on your show recently. It can be done that way. But regression is just a tool of somebody, a trained therapist. And don't just go to anyone. You got to go to someone that's worked with hundreds of people. I really recommend you go to someone that really knows what they're doing and knows the subject matter, so they'll know what you're experiencing physically, if it relates, because you go through physical stuff in the regression. You twitch, you move, you show facial expressions, etc., as well as they'll know if what you're describing is something completely out of the norm, or something that they've had hundreds of other cases share with them. Now you're not going to know, but they'll know. And then afterwards, when you say, have you ever heard of that before, to your regression therapist, they'll say, yeah, 100 other people, So, etc.
Can I ask a question?
It's a tool to help you remember. Yes.
Yeah, I'm curious. So through regression therapy, I think one of the biggest concerns folks have with regression therapy is they're concerned that the regression therapist contains bias. And you mentioned that having, somebody who's done this a lot of times, I'm curious, how do you ensure that the regression therapist doesn't have any sort of bias, or isn't leading you in a particular direction that's attempting to get an outcome?
For instance, let's say you say, oh, I'm in my bed and there are these strange beings in the room. I think they're ETs. They look like the guys in this picture I'm showing you, Okay. And you go, or whatever they look like, but you go, okay, I think there's these strange beings, or they have these big eyes, or whatever it is, or scaly skin, whatever you're saying. But if you go, okay, they're in my bedroom. If the regression therapist says, how did they take you out the window? That would be leading you. If the regression therapist says, did you go anywhere else? That's not leading you. Because you can say, no, they're just in my room. I had experiences that only happened in my room, and I never got taken anywhere. Or at least I didn't remember getting taken anywhere, but they did procedures with me in my environment, in which case it was my bedroom or a hotel room. Okay. But you can, so if the regression therapist suggests something like, what procedure did they do on you? Well, maybe they didn't do any procedures. But if you say, I'm on a table in an exam room and there's this metal thing coming down to me, and they said, what happens next with that? Or maybe, and there's some wiggle room, like, did it touch you? So, but saying, oh, did it implant you? That would be leading them. See the difference? And the good people, that's why you want to go to someone that's worked with a lot of people. If they've worked and they know this and they've studied with the major researchers and whatnot, they know not to do that. There's so many good people in this field that do not lead, and they're real pros. There are people new to it who fall into that trap, and that's why I say go to someone who's more experienced, because they won't lead you. They'll just say, what next? Then what happened? Then what happened? Then what, that kind of thing. Okay.
So right. I think my biggest fear has always been having, because we as human beings, we are very creative, right? And so I always wonder about the conscious state that's evoked, or the state of mind that's evoked during regression therapy. And I just wonder, to what extent, how easily can people create fantasy or stories based on their creative mind?
Well, if you're starting with something you already remember, you're probably going to, okay. If you say, I was awoken by strange beings in the room, I'm just giving that as an example, or I was driving my car and my car was brought to a stop, and there's this strange being in the road, or a strange being coming up to my window. A regression therapist is going to say, what did they do next? Did they do anything?
Right.
What happened? And again, a little bit of leading might be like, did you leave the car? They're not saying, how did you leave the car? That would be leading, but did you leave the car? And if you go, well, yeah, actually, I'm floating up. Oh, you're floating up. How are you doing that? What does it look like? So the regression therapist keeps you moving in your memory so you don't get locked in, because sometimes you can get very emotional about part of it, especially if you are having trauma, and you can kind of get stuck there. And a good regression therapist will calm you down, make you feel safe and okay, and then you allow yourself to remember what happened next.
Well, can I ask
how do you know that that's
go for it, rather.
Yeah, how do you know that's your actual memories and not just your mind kind of creating something? And another question: have you ever had sleep paralysis?
Sometimes you don't, but if you learn later, let's say you know nothing about this subject matter, like me in the beginning, I was recalling things I thought were nuts. I kept saying during regression, is my mind creating this? And they just said, keep going with what you remember, And in the end, to then learn, I was seeing stuff that tens of thousands of people were seeing. My experiences were so common amongst other abductees. And I'm like going, well, obviously my mind didn't create that if it matches what all these other people say.
Or our minds are all the same, right? Our minds invoke the same kind of stuff with appropriate stimuli. Couldn't that be an answer?
But we don't, we don't see the same stuff, especially if someone's saying, this is, you guys, it's not a big mystery. This is like being in a car accident, recalling the car accident. If someone was regressing, because people do get regressed because they can have trauma and forget things like that, or heaven forbid, sexual assault or something, but your mind's not going to create a bunch of fantasy. You're going to say, this is what happened next. You're not in an altered state in regression. You're just relaxed, giving yourself permission to remember. So do you normally fantasize all the time? Well, maybe that would be a problem now. And I would recommend probably therapy. But if you're not someone who fantasizes all the time, you're recalling this isn't going to be fantasizing either. You guys, let me move on, because I really have like 80 slides and a lot of evidence.
Yeah, it'd be great to move on to the evidence. I think that's probably the interesting part to me.
Yeah. Well, because that's the thing that tells you, wait, oh my God, this is real. That's why it's important. That's why it's so important. Okay. So hybrid presentations, just some quick examples by different artists and or experiences. I think the one on the far right is drawn by an artist for the cover of an experiencer's book. And the other two, I think, were both actually drawn by the experiencers themselves. Okay, now, so after being maybe a hybrid presentation, I'm just giving you the typical, this is a common, abduction things that happen. You can be given technical information, like I said on the list there, technical information or navigating craft. I have had that many times. The most profound one was one where they showed me they showed me a small craft, and then they made like part of it disappear. Now I don't know if that was a projection or they were able to displace half the craft in time and space. So, and it was parked within a bigger craft that I was in. But immediately afterwards, from conscious memory, so this is all conscious memory, I drew the drawing on the left. So that's my own drawing from conscious memory, labeled stuff. And then Mark McCandlish, a very famous technical aviation artist who was very interested in my case at one time, interviewed me about some of these things. And while interviewing me, he drew the drawing on the right. I have a larger drawing of it a little bit later. But again, this is just to say technical information.
Wait, go back. That's really cool. Go back real quick.
Well, I'll cover it more later. Listen, I don't want to get hung up on it now. But there you go. So
I was just going to say it was interesting. Yeah. I was just going to say the center coil. I'm curious about that. What did that look like? Was that like a coil on the outside of a cylinder? What was? Do you remember what that kind of the texture that was?
There was a column, like the picture on the right shows a little better. There was a column that was metal, and the coil wrapped from feeding off the structure. So my drawing on the left and then his drawing, but mine, you kind of see it like sideways. So there's things I really like about his drawing, and then there's things that make more sense in mine. But it connected to the stacked plates at the bottom. There was a spinning concave mirror basically above that, and believe me, this would be a long thing, and I'd be happy.
It's fascinating. Well, no, it's fine. We can move on. It's just fascinating to me because I stopped talking.
It's a very, very long thing.
Yeah. I just wanted to say because it's fascinating to me because
it feeds off these stacked magnetic plates. Basically, it feeds off the stacked magnetic plates, which are creating a charge, and it was running that charge up both through the column. And there was a concave mirror, and in the drawing on the right, that's the disc below the column, and it's focusing the energy, although he drew it a little too big there, but it's focusing the energy up into the column, and then the spine structure is wiring, piping, whatever, feeding the energy from the magnetic field there and from an electrical charge created, and feeding that up around the pipe, and then connecting it at the top to these plates that were like tuners that tuned into different frequencies. And then the outside, so that's up in the upper dome, and then you have the little cone-like thing, which was basically an antenna to those tuner plates. And what it did is the magnetic, you guys are hearing all about plasmas now. That's what this was about. Created a plasma in the column. The plasma was stabilized. The tuner plates went down into the plasma. And then whatever you attune the plates to made the plasma in the column match to what you were tuning to. And then that was the navigation or how they went places. And the whole thing had a toroidal field around it, the whole craft. And the skin, so the skin and the spine structure was all a part of it. It fed into it. I mean, I could go on and on. Again, Mark McCandlish, who had the infamous drawing that his friend had made when touring, I think it was Lockheed at one time, and the ARV, Alien Reproduction Vehicle craft. And when Mark did this drawing for me and did all this, I didn't know about any of that. And this was many, many years ago, early 90s. And I didn't know any of that. And he already had that drawing. In fact, he had like 3 versions of it. They appear in different books that are out there. And after I did all this and he asked me all these questions and interviewed me, I think we were like 4 hours or something. And afterwards he said, I have something to show you. And he ended up showing me that drawing. I don't even know if it's that first time. Maybe we met again. I think we had to meet again. But anyways, he then brought the drawing and showed me and explained that what I was seeing matched exactly what the individual who was shown that during that tour said how it functioned. And mine was like a more high-tech version of the exact same thing. And that just blew me away because it totally validated what I was seeing because it was functioned. And I thought there was no mistake that I was seeing this and that he also knew that and that he was able to validate my experience for me because what I saw matched what happened in the ARV.
That is pretty cool, and I think I could see how that could be, very convincing to you. But for people like us who
no, this
haven't
isn't
seen
I'm
this
not
stuff,
in the evidence stuff yet. Hang on, rather, this isn't the evidence stuff. I'm just showing this. All this picture was supposed to be was an example of the kind of things abductees get shown. I'm not the only one.
I was actually thought it was pretty
propulsion information.
Yeah, no. I thought it was actually pretty cool, Melinda, because I spoke to a gentleman yesterday. His name is Mike McCullough. He's a PhD in the UK, and he's doing some studies. And one of the things that I noticed was the coil and the plates, and those are actually studies that he's doing on anti-gravity. So I thought it was interesting relating that conversation back to what you're showing here.
And this was all shown to me. In fact, part of we're going to get into the MyLab stuff a little later. And part of why I'm been used in that way is because of all this stuff that I've been shown, is why those guys had an interest in me and continue to. But we'll get to that later.
Cool. Let's move on.
Okay. So people are given language or formulas. This is someone's formula they were given. Actually, they woke up in the morning and the abductee had written this all over their walls in their bedroom. So, and other things similar. But, and then these became, it's a long story there, but they eventually became of interest to the Pentagon, and he was studied. But anyway, but a lot of people get languages. I mean, I could, you start looking at all the evidence pictures online and go to the abduction research websites and everything, and there's tons of this stuff. A great new book I'll talk about a little bit more, Les Velez, this book here, he runs Opus, but there we go. Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support, and his book is The Unknown Other, the existential proposition of alien contact, with a foreword by Linda Moulton Howe. And anyway, so he that's a brand new book he has out that I highly recommend. But he has examples of tons of writing and formulas and stuff people got in there, and it's actually just a small part of the book, but it just happens to be in there. Okay, so now moving on to, again, from a previous presentation, the top 10 types of beings reported. Just real quick, let me blow through these. Small grays, tall grays, elder grays, hybrid babies and children and hybrid adults, mantis, so number 6, mantis beings, other insectoid beings. Oh, I said that's number 7, other insectoids. Number 8, reptilians. And, all of these have multiple varieties. 9, Nordics, which has been a catchphrase now for anything basically human-looking. Human-looking ET, not another abductee on board, and energy or light beings. So those are the top 10 most common. Here's just some quick examples. Here's what supposedly is a hybrid showing a little girl, an adult or teenage hybrid, and the little girl was the abductee in this experience. Or no, it was actually the abductee drew this picture, and it was a recall from a experience that happened in childhood, but that was the hybrid taking around. Again, to the right, another Casara Dennett drawing showing a group of ETs and a hybrid child too. A hybrid adult on the left, another hybrid adult child, on the right. The typical gray, that was drawn by Mark McCandlish for me. So early on, and that was what my grays look like. Okay, on the left. Mantis being, that was a drawing by Casara Dennett for a mass abduction involving a multitude of different grays plus mantis beings. That's the Coronado, Hotel del Coronado in San Diego, California, mass abduction event. I was one of the people in that event. 2 books, one by Preston Dennett, another one by Yvonne Smith, have been written out about the event. In Yvonne Smith's book, she worked with 15 cases of people that were involved, and I was one of those 15. So there's 15 chapters in the book, but that was a drawing by Casara Dennett for that. And then famous artist in the field who does a lot of ET drawings, David Chase, did the beautiful drawing of one of my reptilians there on the right. But these are things seen in my own experiences, but these are extremely common in abductions, extremely common. Okay, and then of course Nordics, the human-looking ones, typical view of that on the left, and reptilians and grays together with someone on a table on the right. So evidence for ET abduction. So here we go. And again, that was just to give everyone kind of a flavor of typical things that happen for those that weren't as familiar with the subject matter. Okay, the top 10 common types of evidence for ET abduction. So this is one Power Pack slide here. So first is marks on the body. Just run through real quick. Bruises, needle marks, burn marks, scratches, scalpel marks, scalpel scars, patterns of pinprick marks, scars in the roof of the mouth, in the nose, behind the ear, triangular bruises, insides of thighs, etc. The bruising, the scalpel marks, straight line scars, scoop marks, triangle marks, burn marks, and all sorts of patterns. I'm going to show you all sorts of examples in just a minute. So that's marks on the body. Number 2, scars that appear the same or next day. Again, scoop marks, other healed scars that appear overnight. So where you've never had a scar before, you now have a new scar. Obviously, some very fast healing process beyond our ability, or our technology to do, right? Okay. 3, fluorescence on the skin. That it's only a couple of frequencies of black light that show it. I forget what that is. There is a gentleman, Steve Colburn, in the field that does extensive research into the fluorescence evidence and has just thousands of pictures he's done of people and their environments. But so fluorescence can appear on the skin or in your environment. And again, you won't necessarily see it. Sometimes you can see it a little, depending on how much is there. And I'll give some examples in just a minute. I've a couple times lit up like a Christmas tree with a lot of fluorescence. In fact, one abduction that I had just a little bit of memory was I woke up early in the morning, kind of paralyzed in bed, then had to use the restroom. That's not unusual, but it was extra early. And I woke up startled, like something had startled me in bed. I go back to bed. I proceed to have this very detailed abduction related dream. I woke up again later in the morning, wrote it off as a dream because of waking up in the middle of the night startled. I thought, like you said, rather, maybe my mind created that or something. And 2 days later, I'm at a conference with Steve Colburn, and he says, have you had any recent experiences? I said, no. And he said, well, let me scan you for fluorescence just as kind of a test case or, whatever, and he was just curious, and he had before. And so he has this little tent thing he sets up that's completely dark, and you go in, it's like a little grow tent or something. Anyway, but you go in there, and he proceeds to pull out these black lights and scan. And I look.
Doesn't every bodily fluid glow with a nightlight though?
No. And this was.
I think it does.
This was
right.
No. Certain acidic compounds, but no, not everything. And this is really unique. After experience, like for me, it was all over these fingers. It was in a stripe up this arm. It went up one side of my face. It circled my eyes. It was just on my fingertips. I mean, there are certain things that can fluoresce, like I think lemon juice or something, but I would have had to have taken a paintbrush and painted thick amounts in these stripes. I had stripes, and then I had handprints.
Did you take a picture of that?
Handprints. Yeah, I had tons of pictures of it. Yeah, and I'm going to show you some examples. I don't have all my stuff because I haven't gotten it all from Steve Colburn for that, and I've been meaning to, and it's just something I need to do. But okay, so fluorescence on your skin or in your environment. Some people have had like an alien handprint on their wall or on their bedding, like a fluorescing handprint. The 3 fingers and opposing thumb, that kind of thing. All sorts of interesting things like that. The fluorescence, it can be on your furniture walls, on fixtures, the interior and exterior of your car. These are all things that have come up. And, with the fluorescence.
What do you think that material is then?
I don't know. We don't know.
Have you ever tried to get it tested and looked under a microscope or anything?
Yeah, he has. I'd have to ask Steve what the findings are, but yes, he has, absolutely, many times, with whole teams of people.
That'd be the actual evidence, right? Is looking at that under a microscope, and if it's alien DNA or something like that, that'd be a game over.
Well, there's no way to know. You don't know what alien DNA is. All you can say is it's unknown DNA because we don't know how to test for alien.
But that would be
DNA.
important. That would be important, right?
Yeah, that'd be a game changer.
But there's no way to test for that. We don't have anything to compare it to. When DNA does testing, all they can say is there's junk DNA or unknown DNA. So, but there are other oils and substances and so there's things that they've learned. Again, I would say, hey, you guys could have Steve Colbert on. He's a real expert on it. Okay, so going back to then landing, trace, or environmental evidence. Marks and other ship evidence in or around your abduction environment. Sometimes these craft land. There's some very famous abduction cases. Again, I'll show an example from one of those. In your yard, and then going to landing, trace, or environmental evidence like blood or unknown liquids or needle marks on your bedding, like as if a needle was dragged across the bedding or something, on like leaving a little line of blood or something, or and other fluids, needle marks on bedding or clothes, liquids, unknown liquids, blood, etc. Effects to the room or car. For instance, examples of being radiated, particularly cars that have come under radiation effects from an abduction that's also involving usually a close range sighting. And then witnesses to your experience. So again, so that's, I'm just going through the list here. Witnesses to your experience. Witnesses to your being taken and removed, like people who witness that happening, even though they're not taken themselves, or witnesses that you were missing during a missing time period. And then, of course, others who've may been taken with you, abducted with you, whether it's a spouse or a child. I have many cases of all these things. And then mass abduction. So I'm a researcher investigator in alien abductions and my labs, as well as an experiencer of it. Okay. So, and that's because my own experiences that started me looking into everything and then becoming involved in the field. And, like you guys said, 1 year promo things 32 years later, it's a lot of research. Mass abductions where you were taken with other people who also remembered the event.
Did I stop or did she?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell if I was on pause.
Are we okay?
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah, you're back. Sorry, you froze there for a second.
Okay. So I don't know how much that you heard, but mass abductions, number 6 there, where you were taken with other people who also remember the event, and collaborating accounts, collaborating accounts where the different accounts from different people are all matched. So again, one of the ways to know you're not fantasizing, rather, is when you're taken with other people and then they get separate hypnotic regressions than you, but let's say all with the same therapist, like in Yvonne Smith and her account, 15 people taken from the Hotel Del, and then having all these details of the experience match between different people who got regressed years apart from each other, yet their details match. So you're not hallucinating if everything you remember matches what someone else remembers.
I've been involved in a number. People take DMT trips, right? And they see, and I think this is one of the most interesting parts of maybe consciousness and stuff. They take DMT and they see similar beings and similar creatures to other people who have taken this.
No, but what if we're talking specific procedures where I recall a particular procedure being done to a friend of mine, and in his regression, he recalls all the details of that exact same medical procedure happening to him that I witnessed
and that's fair.
Next to him.
Right.
Yeah,
I think the biggest challenge, I think, for folks, Melinda, is like this idea of making sure that we're using good protocols to regress people, and making sure that they're separated by research.
Oh, yeah.
Well, when you say evidence,
there's regression therapists who've been doing this work for 50 years. I mean, this isn't new. This is understood. There's these protocols. There was a whole MIT conference just on abduction research and the science of it. A whole entire MIT conference just on that. So this is not new.
No. I don't. I hope you don't think I'm coming off as attacking.
No. That's why I said, you guys. Yeah. No, you're not. No. I'm just always defensive.
Right. No.
That's just how I am.
No. Yeah. And that's okay. All I'm trying to get at is I want to, as we continue studying this sort of stuff, I always want to make sure that I'm getting as pure of data as possible. And I'm just always looking for, like, for example, in this case, what is the relationship for these folks who went back and got regression therapy years later, who are in the same experience? And I'm just curious,
never met, don't know each other. The only one who knows.
And what about the regressor?
The therapist. Well, the therapist knows, like, they're getting an account shared by one person. Someone else who doesn't know them comes forward with the same date, same event, or enough other evidence to suggest they were involved, they get regressed, and then their details match.
Same therapist though. Is a therapist
that
the common link there?
helps in the case of a mass abduction, because who else would know if what you're getting matches the other people? So it helps.
The downside of that scientifically is that person has bias.
But what if they're going with just what the people remember?
I mean, I think that there is something to this. It is interesting, very interesting. But I think when you talk about, evidence that can convince a skeptic, I don't think that's going to do it, right?
Well, that's why I'm saying, you guys, it's not one of these things, it's all these things. So you take it into conjunction with everything else. If someone has a mass abduction and the other witnesses come forward, and there's landing trace evidence, and there's fluorescence on them, and there's scars on their bodies, and there's all the photographic video and everything else I'm going to talk about on here. What if there's a case with many of these things going on? And there are well-investigated cases with many overlapping pieces of evidence. So let me move on so we can get through this. Implants found in X-rays or by other means, implants removed, scientifically examined. I have here, of course, the work of the late Dr. Roger Leir, who did 17 surgical removals of anomalous implants. When the science was done on these, they had off-Earth isotope ratios in the metals, isotope ratios that do not occur naturally or artificially on Earth. They had nerve bundles, when removed from the person, nerve bundles that grew into the metal structure, the crystalline metal structure, the nerves, and he had all sorts of people in the medical community and science community involved in this whole project, and they were seeing these nerve bundles in people that were, and nerves that were growing in to the metal structure, and that's not known to happen. Et cetera, et cetera. Now, again, see, that's a whole presentation itself. But unfortunately, Dr. Roger Leir is no longer with us, or I would say you guys got to have him on. But unfortunately, he passed away. This is his book called The Aliens and the Scalpel. See if I can get it in there. So there we go. The Aliens and the Scalpel, Scientific Proof of Extraterrestrial Implants in Humans, Dr. Roger K. Leir, DPM. And a forward by Whitley Strieber. But this is all about his research and the scientific findings. You guys, I highly recommend everybody check this out. This is a must read in this field, The Aliens and the Scalpel, to know about the implant removals and the science from them. It's really very interesting stuff. And there's multiple presentations people can find online that Roger did when he was living for, conferences and interviews where he gets all into it, and PowerPoints where he shows tons and tons of data. Okay, so next is number 8, photographic or video evidence to any of these things listed as evidence examples. So having photographic or video evidence. And then people have placed cameras in their environment at the time of the event, and certainly recording sightings or crafts being sighted at the time of the event. And some people have attempted sound and video recordings. I do have a case that has some very interesting sound recording of some of his experiences, and particularly his mill lab ones. It gets very, very interesting because
that seems like that's the silver bullet, right? Put a video camera in your bedroom and
well, you guys know, though, video footage is not proof of anything. That's why it's being debated in so many famous sightings and military sightings right now. I just heard your guys' program about the rubber duck sighting, and so it's like stuff can be other things. It can certainly be hoax. It can be CGI. So, again, it's pieces of evidence added together. Not that any case has one thing. Many really good abduction cases have many of these pieces of evidence. So, but photographic and video evidence does exist. Going to number 9. Did I answer your question?
Do you have any like good examples of that though?
Yeah,
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I'm about to show you. I'm going through the list. I'm gonna keep doing lists, pictures.
And we only have 40 minutes left, and I know you got 60
I know
more
I have
slides,
so much to cover. You guys, I have so much. But let's move on. Okay. Biological evidence, unusual findings in the blood or tissue, the DNA analysis, the caudate putamen basal ganglia connections that are in the MRI findings and the work of Dr. Gary Nolan and Dr. Christopher Kit Green. You guys probably have heard of all that. The caudate putamen, they're having these basal ganglia tissues that don't normally form in people, that are, there's many of them and extras, and the way they light up in the MRIs, particularly in people who've had very close contact and or abduction events. This is coming up, and they call these people the antennas. You may have heard that term. They're calling them the antennas because they feel it's somehow connecting them to the experience, and that consciousness interaction, that these parts of the brain are connected more so. Everyone has a few fibers there, but people with abduction accounts have a lot of it, they're finding. And they've worked with, I know of at least 40 cases they've worked with. I'm losing count, probably more than that. And I just talked to someone recently about a week ago that they've asked them to give blood and DNA samples and have the MRI done. For what it's worth, Jim Semivan asked me if I was willing to. I told him yes. And I'm going to quote Jim Semivan. He said, "I bet you have caudate putamen to beat the band." I'm quoting him. He goes, "I bet you have caudate putamen to beat the band." So, and I said, yeah. Now, they haven't approached me or set anything up. Because of this recent conversation with someone they are working with, I'm going to use that as a basis to contact Mr. Semivan and say, "I know you guys are working with them. Did you still want to do it with me?" And I figured that would be a good thing to call him about. But anyways, I'm willing to do that. And if they want, and have DNA, because I want to know the findings. And I told Jim Semivan that, and I told this other person that. I said, yeah, do it. Make sure you read carefully or have a lawyer read an NDA to know what you're getting into. And then also, make sure that you have something in writing that they will share the findings with you. I want to know, is there anything unusual in my blood or DNA? And do I have the caudate putamen? Even though, Jim says I have it to beat the band, we'll see, But if I do, I want to see those findings and have it explained to me. So next is genealogical. And again, they've done it with at least 40 cases that I know of. They may be up to 100 now. I don't know. I don't know how many, but at least 40 people that I personally know that they've done it with. Okay, so biological. Unusual findings. Oh, we covered that. Okay, next is genealogical. Abductions run in your family. It happens to your parents, your grandparents, your kids, your siblings, your grandkids. It may be very possible they're also involved in your experience or having ones of their own. In other words, many times your family members are involved in your abductions, or they're having separate ones. I know families where they've had them together, and yet even little kids having separate from the parents is very emotional that when that happens. But they do run in families. It's very common for an abductee to learn it happened to their parents and grandparents. And then you have kids, it happens to them. You have grandkids, it happens to them. I know of 2 cases that go back 5 generations. So, and it's very common. 3 and 4 generations is now very common in abduction research. And I do know, like I said, 2 cases that go back 5 generations.
Melinda, before you go to the next slide, we do have a $5 question, kind of relates to this slide here. Why do you think that they are so interested in us? It seems is it because we are correlated to them in some way?
Good question. We don't really know, but I would say yes. There's all sorts of historical evidence or data anyways to suggest strongly that abductions may go back throughout time. Certainly contact with ancient cultures, there's a whole TV show based on that, Ancient Aliens, so it could be that contact is happening throughout history. And then there's a lot of people theorizing, for instance, if you watch Ancient Aliens as an example, that they may have genetically created us to begin with. I know that's controversial, but God works in mysterious ways, right? Maybe he had ET's help, So there you go. So yeah, it's a good question though. Okay. So other evidence considerations, documented or witnessed missing time. Now, missing time by itself is not evidence of anything if you guys are going to go there, but if it's documented or witnessed, like people say you were gone and then you were back and a whole group of people witness it. There are abductions where that happens, where people are taken out of a group and they go, "What do you mean I didn't go anywhere?" And everyone goes, "Yeah, you were gone for like 2 hours." That happened in the Rendlesham case, as a matter of fact. So it could be a half hour, several hours, a whole day or more. Some people have multiple days gone. That has happened in some abduction cases. And I said here, do not include lapses due to highway hypnosis driving, and experience when you are drinking alcohol or experiencing or drugs of any kind, or experiencing chronic physical pain or effects of medication, or times you were greatly absorbed in work or reading. So you discount all those, because of course, if there's any, good abduction research, you're going to go to all the known things first, just like sightings. You got to, I say on my tours, you got to rule out all the known things first. Only when you can rule out every known possible explanation are you left with an unknown. Well, same with abductions.
What about, how do you, explain away things like mental illness and other things like that? How do you?
Well,
how
if people are in a room
like
and you're in an event, or you're in a car and they say you were gone, and they were like sitting there in the car, and then they say you came back, and you're like, what do you mean I was gone? And they said, yeah, we're gone for like 2 hours. You have direct witnesses. So that's not mental illness. Witnesses say you were gone,
So
and
saying that they just disappeared from the car, like.
Yeah. People have missing time in front of groups or other people. Sure. Yeah. It's happened many times. And then documented with missing time is if, for instance, the police are involved or anything like that, where then it becomes documented. Okay. Like the famous Travis Walton case, where he's gone for days and the police are involved. So that's documented missing time.
But that could be someone wandering around, right? And, forgetting.
No, but not if no one can find you. If there's a police investigation, you're not found, or people witness you gone and you're like, I never left. And they're like, yeah, you weren't here,
I'd love to hear actual reports of that stuff, because usually there's lots. It's not that clear cut, I don't think.
But everything I'm telling you is not like 1 or 2 cases. I'm telling you guys, thousands of people have had everything I've listed here. These are the things that all the top research organizations, some of the abduction research organizations have over 10,000 cases in their files. Some of them just have thousands or hundreds, and some of them have 10,000. So,
and I believe you, and everything what you're saying is true. But I'm trying to find other potential explanations, right?
Well, I'm just saying, abduction research organizations have gone down these roads, asked these. Your questions are all valid, but they've been asked before. They've been investigated. They've been researched. I encourage everyone, read the books. Go to the conferences, hear the major abduction researchers share their data. Unfortunately, we lost, Bud Hopkins and Dr. John Mack, but we still have John Carpenter and Leo Sprinkle and Bud Hopkins. And, we lost Dr. Carla Turner, but, again, there's, and Yvonne Smith and Barbara Lamb, and, it goes on and on. I could go on and list. There's many, many great researchers doing, and as I said, Les Velez and his whole organization, which is really terrific, and let me go on. So unusual sleeping circumstances or disorders. Now, of course, there can be other explanations for these, but waking in the middle of the night, waking in the middle of the night, startled, feeling as though you've been dropped onto your bed, or remembering being dropped onto your bed,
Well, it's like hypnic jerk, right? Have you heard of that?
Not if you remember like actually falling, I actually had an experience where I fell from the ceiling. A lot of abductees remember that whole thing. Sleeping with your bed up against a wall in order to feel safe. Sleeping in other particular manner, to be comfortable, that's unusual. Waking in, some of it can be explained, but again, so you always go through what are the known things, what could explain this, and what are you left with. Waking in the morning or the middle of the night to find yourself in a different location other than where you went to bed. So this happens, and this is often witnessed by other people, by family members. They were in the bed and they wake up in some strange place. Sometimes in an outdoor environment. One great case, for example, that I worked with, young man, I think in his 20s, having abductions his whole life. For a while, for financial reasons, lived with his mom in a 2-story townhouse in Irvine, California. They had old popcorn ceiling. They were renting, old popcorn ceiling. So 2 things, both of these, his account. One is wakes up at the ceiling, brushes the popcorn with his hands, knocks it with his hands, drops to the bed, is out of it then, but wakes up again later, and him and the bed are all covered with the popcorn from the ceilings. Same gentleman, another experience, has an abduction. They have a carport. The carport roof, the distance between the roof and the building, I went and saw, it's about 10 feet away. He wakes up just in his underwear on the roof of the carport. They left him on the roof of the carport, missed his bed. These kinds of things happen all the time. When he wakes up, luckily he has a neighbor like 5 spaces down who has a big extra long truck, because the carport roof is pretty high. And he's like, I can't jump down. This is easily 10 or 12 feet, you know. But luckily this guy's big truck bed stuck out. And it was actually, there was a gap between his roof and the other. He had to run because the carport had a rock on top. He had to run, jump over this gap. And this whole time he's hoping, because it's really early in the morning, he's hoping none of his neighbors get up to go to bed, because he's out on the carport roof in his underwear, and he's like, you know, so embarrassed. He's like, I'd be mortified if anyone saw him. He jumps down on the back of the truck, goes, so they left him there. He goes back to the front door, knocks on the front door. I've interviewed his mom too. Knocks on the front door. The mom's there. She wakes up, opens the door. She's got I think she's got curlers in her hair, and, you know, wearing her robe. And she opens the front door, and there's her son standing there in his underwear. Now, she knew about his experiences, so he was able to say, and she had stuff too, so he was able to say, I just had something happen, but they left me on the carport. Another abductee I know is coming through a wind, coming through bushes, going through treetops, becomes conscious at the end of her experience, starts grabbing, because there's all this new growth, baby leaves and twigs on the top of the tree. She's grabbing them and like holding on for dear life till they take her to the window, put her in bed. She wakes up later in the morning and she's got all these leaves and twigs in her bed, you know. So that kind of evidence where you go, okay, something just happened, you know.
Well, let me ask you this, Melinda, because we've got about 25 minutes left before we've got to end the show.
We're gonna have to do another show, because we're not even
we're gonna have to break this down into a
I know.
Series.
A friend of mine said, are you gonna get to the MyLab stuff? I said, you guys, I know they're gonna hammer me with questions.
The people in the chat are really looking. I mean, look, you can understand, right? For folks who have never had an experience or don't know anyone who's had an experience, how listening to this could be difficult for them to fathom and understand and believe, right? You can understand that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Read the books, hear the major research, realize that we're talking, things I'm saying here are shared in absolutely thousands or hundreds of thousands of cases. You know, that's how common these are.
No, I don't think anybody's going to dispute that, right? You got Harvard professors who've written books about it, and it's this is a slippery slope. It's difficult because it's difficult to show hardcore concrete proof of evidence, and a lot of these people who are listening to this, they're saying that anecdotes are not evidence.
Well, that's why. Okay, no, I'm going to share pictures. That's why I wanted to do this visual. Now, you guys, let me at least get through the abduction evidence before the end of the show, and we can do another one where I get all into the MyLab's evidence. Okay, which is really extensive. So that we're going to have to be careful. And if I come back and do the show again, that in 2 hours we're able to do. But at least I know how to do the screen sharing and everything. So in the future we won't have as many technical problems. And if I hadn't had the traffic, I would have been here early to do it with you guys beforehand. But okay, so electronics around you go haywire, oddly malfunction with no explanation. Again, TVs, radios affected. Again, witnesses to all this. Someone in your life who claims they've witnessed a ship or alien near you, beyond your own sightings. And then again, that was, I said before, about witness periods of missing time. A strange fog or haze in your environment or in your surroundings, often associated with the experiences, again, witnessed by other people. Strange audible or humming or pulsing sounds before or after an event where you cannot, again, you roll all the known things, you can't identify the source, especially, again, if witnessed by other people. Profound paranormal or psychic experiences, Often these are documented or witnessed. There are documented and witnessed things relating to the abductees and their profound paranormal stuff. For women only, false pregnancy, a verified pregnancy that disappeared, a missing fetus. Unusual. Now, of course, some fetuses can be absorbed early on, or there's some debate about that in the medical community, but we're talking, what if it's a much later pregnancy, later in a couple months in or something. Unusual or impossible monthly cycles. Just as an example, this happens to many people, but I once had a period of time in the 90s for about 2 years, I would say, where I would have a monthly cycle and a week off, and then have another, and then a week off, and another, and then a week off. So like every other week. So like in a period of time, a month where I should have one, I was having 2 or 3 in a month's time. And that went on for well over a year. And I was having back-to-back abductions. I think they were messing with my ovulation cycle to get me to ovulate more, to take more ovum from me. I was having a bunch of that happen then. But other people have all sorts of other women have all sorts of things, unexplained scarring in any of the reproductive area, unexplained reproductive problems, and healings related to your contact. So people have had healings of major issues there, cysts and things removed, and some of this there's medical documentation for. A lot of it. For men only, unusual or unexplained scarring on the genitals, unexplained reproductive problems, or healings, again, healings related to the events. Some men have even had implants in their genitals.
I believe you that all these things are reported, right? The thing that I'm struggling with is that the explanation that this is all alien cause. I feel like there's a gap in the actual.
Hang on. Rather, it's a good thing, but I'm saying yes, there can be other causes, but you're not going to have an implant in your genitals that you're going to unless you put it there, right?
When you talk about
but if you
military
remember,
labs and
but
stuff
hang
like
on,
that,
if you remember an alien experience, and that's when you got it. And then later you find it through X-rays or MRI or surgery. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Like people,
and I could see that being very convincing to the person, but I feel like that's not gonna prove it, right? That's not gonna be evidence that can.
Evidence, you guys, evidence is not proof. Okay, proof is actually subjective. So you guys know that proof is subjective. There's very few things that can prove. In court of law, it's a preponderance of the evidence. I am showing you guys a preponderance of the evidence. Many cases have many of these things that I'm going through that have happened. Okay.
So what is your? I'm just curious.
Of the evidence. That's what wins a court case, because proof is subjected. You really can't prove anything.
So D.S. Oliver, or not D.S. Oliver, someone else here, I forget, had a question about cattle mutilations and human mutilations, stuff like that, which I feel like that might be kind of getting closer to actual proof of something really going on here. I'm curious your thoughts.
And I'm saying there's medical evidence here. What proves a cattle mutilation? The medical findings, right? So it's the medical findings, the examinations. So I'm saying there's medical findings and examinations here. Okay, I'm going to get on because I want to show the pictures, not run out of time.
Yeah, if you could show us the evidence, that would be great.
Well, and I'm just giving you a few examples. I don't have all the evidence.
No. I'm just saying examples of evidence are great too.
Yeah. Okay. Frequent or sporadic headaches. Again, particularly if everything else has been ruled out. Sinus problems. Often I have a deviated septum with no known cause that I think is related to my experiences, because I have no known cause. Suffer from PTSD symptoms with no obvious or known causes other than your contact or abduction events. This is very common, and many, Yvonne Smith is an expert in PTSD, trained clinically in it and an expert. And so she helps cases with that. So is NK, right? Okay. Hypervigilance. Repeatedly checking throughout your home before you go to bed at night, double checking your locks, installing a security system for no known reason. Again, Whitley Strieber, his account comes to mind there. Pets and animals as witness. Now, one time I was thinking of writing a whole book about this. I have so many other things to do in other books that will come first. But pets or animals showing physical effects that they were affected, whether they were taken or just affected in the environment, radiation stuff, things like that, demonstrating, and pets or animals demonstrating strange behavior in association with the event or immediately afterwards. So now we can get some pictures, because there's lots of examples of that. I actually have like 6 different times in my life where pets or animals were affected or witnessed the event. One time, just as a quick example, I lived in an apartment that had a window with a very small portion at the bottom. It had a floor to ceiling window. The very small portion at the bottom, about 2 feet by 2 feet, was a little screen section that opened for air. I rented this apartment, long story short, with some other people. People who lived in it before us had a baby in that room. The apartment complex had nailed on the screen from the outside, bolted it, the screw, it was in many places. So that screen, so if they had a baby in the room, it would have to busted through the screen. This was a 2nd story thing. And so to make sure that would never happen, they bolted it all on. One time I have an experience. I used to have a little shelf outside that window, just a decorative part of the building, and it would get mourning doves on it in the morning. I had an abduction. I came back. I was conscious. I was still in my room. I heard this thing flying around the room. At first I thought, oh my God, is there an ET? There's something behind the curtain. I eventually turned on the light, moved the curtain. I'm just trying to do this fast. And there was a dove in my room. There was no way. I'm in a 2nd story bedroom, up a long staircase, down a winding hallway with a closed bedroom door. And I had gone to bed. I can assure you there was no dove in my room. And suddenly I have a dove in my room that there was, with a nailed screen on a tiny little window. There's no way for that dove to get in there. But I just remembered I was conscious and had just been brought back through the window. So that to me was immediate evidence that, oh my God, one of those mourning doves that gathers outside in the morning got sucked in with me. Okay. Common evidence, here's needle marks in and around the ears. Just some examples. A needle mark under a fingernail. And then this is a typical scoop mark. I'm going to show more of these. Typical scoop mark on the right after an abduction event. Now, these appear overnight, healed, you guys.
Those look like pimple scars to me, don't they?
No, that's a cookie cutter indentation there on the right. I mean, the man did not have a hole in his head. This shows the size here. And again, these appear overnight. That's the trick, is they appear overnight. The one on the left is scoop mark on my leg after an event where I had an abduction while driving home from California. I had a period of about 3 hours of missing time while driving home between 2 locations that I knew how long it should take, an hour and a half to drive between them. It took like 3.5 or 4 hours to drive that distance. So I knew I'd had missing time. The next day I go right home, I go to bed, middle of the night, long story short. I woke up the next day, my leg was throbbing. I had leggings on, I pulled them up. I had a front door opening up into a kitchen, and a kitchen with bright fluorescent lighting. I turned on all the fluorescent lights, opened the front door so it had lots of natural light, put my leg up on the counter, pulled up my pants, and had that scoop mark on the left. I have some more pictures of it. The scoop mark on the left. This is a person, these kind of things, marks that appear on your hand, again, immediately after an abduction. These are little burn marks in a circle on their hand in this case. These kinds of things are all typical. Again, another scoop mark appearing overnight on the left. Again, burn or little sores, I'm not sure, but on the right on somebody's shin, again, immediately after an experience. And of course, the triangle pattern, well, that's a triangle pattern, but particularly triangle pattern on the left is extremely common with abductees. And it can be needle marks, burn marks, or little cuts. It can be any of those things. This is burn marks going up someone's leg, evenly spaced, starting at their ankle. It's kind of hard to see. They go all the way down to the ankle and all the way up to the knee. About every inch was a perfectly spaced little burn mark.
How come they're not all the same there? I've seen a couple of these patterns. How come everyone doesn't have
everybody has different? Who knows? Yeah, I don't know. We don't know what the ETs are doing. Everybody has different stuff happen. A lot of people will have the same stuff, like those triangular patterns. Like I said, that's very common. Both of these patterns, kind of things. Certainly the scoop mark. So I mean, the scoop mark is almost like all abductees. It's that common. I mean, hundreds of thousands of people have it. It's very common.
Yeah, probably.
And
Everyone would. That's kind of my problem. It seems like, have you heard of like the Smiley case killers? There's a team that hunts murderers, and they
Rather, I'm talking about you finding this the next day. You never had a scar there. Maybe you've even shown that leg before. I know someone that had a scoop mark on their leg. It was well investigated and researched, but then
I bet
at a later date they had another abduction and another scoop mark. So the therapist had before pictures of their leg, and then all of a sudden there's another one, and so they knew that wasn't previously there. That kind of stuff. Again, we're talking extensive research. And marks up the leg. This is the fluorescence. Again, this is very common. This is someone's whole inner thigh fluorescing, fingertips, and it can be different colors. Steve Colburn has learned the intensity of the color directly relates to how recently you had an experience. He says once you get past 3 or 4 weeks, it fades. It's no longer visible. So if somebody's got it, it means within a month or less they had an event. And then if
I will say urine does glow under black light. I just looked that up.
If they had an experience like I did, like 2 days before, it's very bright. I can hear you. I'm sorry, I apologize. I didn't hear you.
He was just saying that bodily fluid, so blood, urine, all bodily fluids glow under fluorescent light.
Okay, but what I'm saying is there's no blood or urine here. Okay, this person had an event, and the next day or within a couple days of the remembered abduction, that maybe has witnesses and other evidence.
From the outside, when they're saying if it's blood or urine or alien abduction, they're probably going to say it's blood or urine, right?
But with me, I didn't have urine all up the inside of my arm in stripes or blood. I never did 2 days before. Never did. Okay, and up the side of my face, splattered. Then there's like a splattered, like it's splattered on my other arm, and then clearly like handprints, fingerprints, like something held or grabbed me. And I mean, in fluorescing, and I didn't have blood in those areas. I didn't have any urine in those areas, and so that's what we're talking about. It's, and then there was also other evidence. There was other stuff for some of these people. It adds up. It's usually not just one thing. This is landing trace evidence. This happened to me an event, but this isn't from me. This is a well-known case. This is Debbie Jordan. I think it's hers. I'm pretty sure it's hers. But subject to this book, Intruders, by the late Bud Hopkins. Great book. But this is landing trace evidence of marks. And bottom right, all that vegetation had it just died, and it never grew back for years. It took many, many years before any of it even grew back. And then they took samples. I mean, there's I wish I could remember his name.
I think we lost her.
Away, but he did extensive. Oh,
gotcha.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, you're just kind of popping in and out.
Oh, sorry. It could just
That's
be.
Okay.
I'm here in my office at the Center for New Age, and if a lot of people are on the internet, but there's extensive cases of landing trace evidence, and the ground is irradiated. They take soil samples, and again, this is an abduction. This person remembered an abduction. They saw a craft in the yard. It kills off the vegetation. It never comes back. Even when there's snow coverage, the snow immediately melts in the spot, in that ring. Friends of mine, where it happened at their house, I was part of this group of 5 people being abducted together. All of us remembered it consciously. 3 of us later also got hypnotic regression. The regression therapist said all of our memories are a perfect match. They all, we all described the exact same thing. The other 2 people decided not to get hypnosis, but we had remembered it all consciously right away. The next day, we talked about the next morning. And that's we immediately found the mark in the yard, which was this big circle. The vegetation did not grow back. There were other unusual things that would take a long time to get into, but there were other unusual things about the mark and the results of it later. But we didn't have anyone come in and take soil samples of ours, but in this case they did, and they found that the ground was irradiated. And like I said, there's this other researcher, I can't remember his name right now. He was very famous he wrote a whole book on landing trace evidence from abductions. And then mass abductions. This is the Coronado event. This is my own drawing. I worked very, very hard on this. I produced this for Yvonne Smith in her book. I'm not an artist, but I'm a perfectionist. So anyways, I was determined to draw it. And it's a large drawing, actually. But she printed it very small in the book, unfortunately. But it's this very large thing. And this is what I recall. And it matched, again, what other people recalled in the more details to the whole event and other parts of the ship and everything. But this was just this main exam room, and that there were actually 15 of us involved, and it involved a variety of grays in the picture. There's elder grays and younger grays, and as well as insectoids. But these mass abductions, I know of a really good case that was investigated of like 100 people out an outdoor event on a beach in Florida. They all get taken together. There's documented missing time from many sources, and then later they start coming forward with their accounts, and again they match. And it was a large. Some of these mass abductions can have 100 or hundreds of people in them. Now in this case it was like 15. This is another mass abduction event because anytime it's 2 or more, it's considered that. So that was like 15 people. This is myself and 2 male friends taken while driving, and there we are on board. That was drawn by an artist friend of mine for me. But
so this you were with 2 other people in a car, and all of you were abducted, and all of you remember the same experience.
Yeah, we're all taken. We had bits and pieces of conscious memory. We agreed the following next day, and that night and the next couple of days, and we agreed not to share. We eventually all got separate hypnotic regressions with the late Dr. Deborah Trontali. She was a full-fledged psychotherapist that I'd worked with for years about this. So I actually worked with a PhD psychotherapist, but she also did regressive hypnosis. And so she said she waited till she did 2 successful regressions on each of us. And then we get together a year later with her in a restaurant. And it took about a year for her to get those regressions done. And then a year after that, anyways, like 2 years later, we meet with her in a restaurant. And she said, I'm in Newport Beach, anyways, California. And she said, I'm here to tell you, you guys are recalling the identical same experience in every way. Your memories are an exact match. And that's the one where I said I saw a procedure going on with somebody, that he recalled the whole procedure, and my whole memory of what I saw happening to him was an exact match to what he recalled happening, et cetera, and vice versa. He saw something going on with me. So the same thing, my memory of that medical procedure matched what he said he saw. These are 2 implants removed. Unfortunately, there's many more pictures that Roger Lear had. I need to see if I can get good quality ones. Some of them are in the book, but I want to get better quality ones. But I originally got these directly from him. And they have protrusions. You'll see the one on the left has wires coming out of it. Not only did it have the nerve bundles growing into it, so that's not known to happen medically, where nerve bundles will grow into a metallic or crystalline structure and actually grow into it. But then this had these fibers coming off of it that were also entangled with the person's nerve structure. And anyway, and then they have, like I said, off-earth isotope ratios, etc. This is an interesting account of the abductee remembering ETs in the living room, remembering the whole event, and she hadn't dusted her TV screen. It was very dirty in a long time. And they walked up, the ETs, and she had something playing on TV, and they walked up and were touching the TV screen. Well, the next morning, upon immediately recalling the event and waking up and everything, she goes in the living room and looks around, was actually looking for evidence, and there were these marks and these fingerprints on the TV screen. So it was like they drew their hand across it, and there's all this stuff. And she said that was not there. She watches the TV. She had stood by it recently with the sun hitting it when it was off. She knew it was dirty, but she said it didn't have all these marks. And the next day, sure enough, it has all these marks on it. Other environmental evidence. This is a totally separate thing. An abductee that I know, highly credible case. I'll go ahead and tell you this guy, what he was for years. He was the head of the FBI for the state of Georgia for years. Head of the FBI for the state of Georgia. His whole family having abductions. His kids are now teenagers and even in college. He was going through old stuff. He told me he was going through old boxes of stuff stored in the garage, and he doesn't ever remember seeing these. Now, he knows his kids have experienced, his kids have witnessed his experiences, he's witnessed theirs, they've been on board craft together, whatever. The kids don't want to talk about it at all. Most people don't. Most abductees don't want to talk about it, don't want anyone to know. They fear ridicule. It's very, very hard and very isolating to go through this experience. These kids don't, but they talk to their parents a little bit, and they remember experiences together. The dad's going through stuff. This is stuff this kid made in kindergarten. And the dad said, I'd never seen these. These are clay things, like this mask thing on the left, and the other one's like a tablet painted, very, pretty good artwork. The kid's like maybe first grade. I think it's first grade. And made these and wrote like a report where he's talking about an experience. And he said, I've never seen this. There's these handwritten things by my kid where he's talking. It's the assignment was, what did you do on summer vacation? What did you do on your vacation on summer? And you're supposed to do some clay, artwork and write a story. Well, he wrote about an abduction event and produced this artwork. So I always say to people, if you find that your kids produce this, your kids are having abductions, which probably means you are too.
Yeah. Well, I have a quick question. What do you think it's going to take for society as a whole to kind of come to grips with this and accept all of this? Because it still is very fringe, as you say. There's all this evidence out there. How come it's not convincing more people? And what would it take to actually get society to accept what you say?
Well, it's not accepting, it's looking at the evidence, which is why I wanted to come do this presentation for you guys. And I have a whole another one. I mean, I have this much and more about the MyLabs and the evidence and much more photos.
Do you think it's possible, though? I mean, you mentioned earlier that even if we had video evidence, like we talk about this on the show all the time. Even if you have amazing video evidence, people will go, "Oh, that's CGI," or "Oh, this or that's the other." Like, what's your goal? Because even if you were able to produce the evidence that would convince you or convince certain people, it's never going to convince everybody. So, I'm just curious what your goal is in sharing this.
Like with Roger Lear and his 17 surgical removals, it wasn't just, I removed an implant. It was all the science that was done later, all the lab work, all the blood work on the person, the lab work and the electron microscope stuff, showing what's going on with the metal, with the crystalline structures, with the nerve bundles and all this, so it's the science. It's called, you gather your evidence, and it helps if you work with an organization or someone that is willing to. Now, fortunately, Roger Lear is no longer with us, so I don't know of anyone else doing surgical removals of implants. In the past, there was a couple of people got some surgical removals done in Japan, and a few others as well that I've heard about here and there. But,
I have to ask you one more quick question, or Bob Marley's going to kill us. He's asked like 10,000 times. What do you believe are the intentions of these different species of aliens?
You guys, I'm not seeing the chat, so
that's okay. Trust me, I think it's better off you don't see the chat.
I'm just curious. No, they asked multiple times. Do you think that the alien species that you've talked about here today have varied intentions, similar intentions, good, bad, evil, indifferent? What are your thoughts? Real quick.
Well, that's one thing, in the MyLabs, in those experiences where people are then picked up by covert human agencies, they're then interrogated about alien agenda motives, like they're trying to learn that. So you're not the only one asking that, they're asking that. And as well as all the guys from the working group and their 40-year history of interest in abductions and abduction evidence, is that they're asking that. Truth is, we don't really know. There's all sorts of what am I trying to say? Statistical evidence suggesting different things. You can know a lot by what happens. So obviously, the taking of ovum sperm, the production of the MyLabs, is that they're creating the hybrids. The purpose for that, we don't really know. There's a lot of different theories floated out there. Everything from we're dying off, we need it, to they're dying off and they need our DNA, to they're creating something using the best of both of us for a whole nother purpose. More and more abductees, I will tell you this, are raising children that they feel are hybrid children. and more abductees are meeting hybrids they saw on board on ship.
And you said you've had hybrid children as well?
Yes, I have a whole long story about that I was going to share, but again, there just isn't the time. But again, if you guys
we'll
are
have
willing
you back.
to have
Don't
me
worry.
back, if you're willing to have me back, But I can certainly do the whole MyLabs evidence talk. I would like, because I put all this work together to put it together for you. I would love to be coming back soon and do the whole MyLabs evidence presentation. But in there, and part of it is I eventually get to. You guys, I'll just, without going through the list of evidence of what's happened to me, because this is my personal abduction evidence list, and I've been investigated, and et cetera, et cetera. So I have things here that I've talked about, landing trace evidence, as I already mentioned. But I'll just show some pictures really quick from my own experience. Anyways, I'm sorry. I know I'm getting sidetracked. What was the end of the question there? Did I answer all of it?
Yeah, I think you answered all of it. Unfortunately, though, we are completely up against the clock where we have to end the show. But we want to have you back, Melinda. I think.
I know.
I think this is a conversation that this show's trying to have because we keep hearing.
Well, you
is
guys,
Melinda still there?
It's
Melinda?
a complicated. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Are you guys still there?
Okay.
We're here.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Melinda. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah, we lost Lou, but go ahead.
Obviously, it's a very complicated subject. You can't cover it in 2 hours. We're talking 50 years of research by hundreds of really good researchers. There's definitely a top 20 list of the people who've done, the best work and the best science in the abduction subject. It's a huge, huge subject. And you guys, and the reason I do want to cover the MyLab stuff is some of the absolute best evidence for alien abductions is that alien abductees and contactees get targeted by covert human agencies, and then they get harassment, surveillance, followed up, picked up, and those guys are sloppy. There's a lot of physical evidence for what they do. They're very sloppy, and abductees are gathering that evidence of the harassment, surveillance, monitoring, and evidence after a re-abduction of effects in their environment and effects on their body, etc. And that is happening because these people are having real alien abduction experiences, that there's this whole covert human black ops world that is very interested in their experiences. And then there are 5 categories of information they're specifically looking for, but I'll save that because I know we're out of time. And I'll also, even though we're out of time, I will, if you have me back, I'll talk about a particular hybrid experience, right? Evidence of another abductee meeting my hybrid children and passing on a message to me through the makers. That's what I have this next slide up for. J3 Films, who made the movie Extraordinary The Seating. An abductee was given an information. She didn't know how to reach me. She reached them, passed on the evidence to them, and then they called me and passed on the evidence. But it was a witnessed hybrid event, and another abductee was told something that I talked about with a hybrid in an abduction, and they got like the second half of the conversation 2 years later and relayed it back to me. And the history behind leading up to that and the other abductee were known by the production people with J3 Films with Extraordinary The Seating. But anyways,
yeah, I'd love to have a free-form conversation about all that. That sounds
But I will do that and MyLab evidence and get all into that next time. So I just wanted to make sure that I kind of got through the alien abduction evidence. I'll go back to this. So I don't know if we have any more time. How much more time do we have?
We're out.
We're over.
We're over time by a minute.
Okay.
So Melinda, look, we're gonna have you. We have to have you back. We have to get through this whole presentation. And there's so many questions that I know that Rather has, Michael has, I have.
Well, your questions were good, and I'm sorry if I sound defensive, you guys. I realize the amount of time. Some of these are long explanations.
Well,
just because
I think
of the subject.
I think the best thing.
I asked you guys, just for everyone to know. I asked them ahead of time. I said, I want the hard questions. I'm tough. I can take it. I've been in the field over 30 years. I've had everything and come under attack before. I can certainly take hard questions from you guys. You guys are pussycats. You're very nice, and rather your questions are all good. It's just it is complicated, but you're asking the right questions. And all I can say is, familiarize yourself with the abduction research that's out there by the major research organizations, free, the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters, and OPIS, Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support, and MUFON ERT team, their abduction response team, and their findings, and others, and read the major books by the researchers. There's really good data out there, and people can familiarize this. I just gave you a very quick sample of some of the evidence for alien abduction. And again, I look forward to when I come back and we cover my labs.
Yeah, no, we will definitely. And look, it's a conversation we're trying to have here on the channel. And I think the biggest part of this conversation is when people like you come on, we have to give you the room to land a really big plane, because you're just loaded with a ton of information and you're oozing it. I can tell, like you got so many things on your mind. And I think sometimes it's difficult, and I'm speaking to folks in my audience and myself included. Sometimes it's difficult to be patient and listen. Just shut up for a second and listen to what this person is saying, and then ask your questions. Because your questions are all good. And I knew, a friend of mine said, "Are you going to get to this, and this?" Right before the show, we were texting, and I said, I think I'm going to get hammered with really good questions, so probably not. So that's okay. I kind of expected it. Melinda, we appreciate you being here. We can't wait to have you back on again and finish up the My Labs part of this. I'm also super interested in your experiences. And sort of what you've experienced. And in the MyLab ones, I share some of my own as examples. I hate talking about my own experiences. All the abductees do, right? But because I know it sounds crazy and it's very hard. There's emotional things. It also triggers past memories. It's very hard to do. But sometimes I'll share my own experiences as an example, because rather than go into the detail of one of my cases, which I usually have to ask them permission. Some of them have given me permission to talk about their stuff. Some of them have even allowed me to use their names, but I can easily talk about mine as far as freely, So, so even in the evidence, I wanted to share some of my own examples. As examples is common what happens to other people, so everything I showed you that was mine is common. But also, in the My Labs, I'll do the same. I have a lot of evidence from other people's cases, and then some evidence from things that I was involved in. Now, some of those My Lab events were mass My Labs, where multiple people were taken together. So it's not just my evidence, it's also the evidence of the other people from the same event. Well, I can't wait. Melinda, before you get out of here, please tell everyone where they can find you or your research and your stuff. Yeah,
I'm going to do this really quick.
I've got your link below, by the way.
We can slide to the end here. UFOsightingtours.com is my website. That's the first one listed there. The second one, I'm an Extraordinary, The Seeding. If you go over to the right, you'll see I'm in the new movie Extraordinary, The Revelations, which is released. The documentary is released November 30th. So that's coming right out. But The Seeding is out there. There's the link to that. You guys can share these if you want. There's my lab research information, presentation that goes in great detail if someone wants to know more, and my research on disclosure in the 40-year history of the working group, which is what you guys had me on previously, and that's a link to my whole presentation about that.
Awesome. Melinda, thank you so damn much for being here. We truly appreciate it. Thank you for your patience and being here. We'll see you guys.
Hey, I loved it. Thanks for having me. Like I said, I can handle the tough stuff. Go for it even next time.
Don't worry. We're going to get tougher next time. Don't you worry about it. Don't you worry about it.
Should I come with boxing gloves on? Okay. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thanks, Melinda.
Woo. All right. Let's get to some super chats and let's end the show. That was a lot. We're gonna. I want to get your initial thoughts, guys, and what you think. But before we do that, real quick, I want to say thank you to Grant Levat for the $20 super chat donation. Congrats, gents, on your partnership with KGRA and achieving such a great milestone in UCR's journey. Your tribe is so proud. Thank you so damn much. Sorry we couldn't ask the Melinda Leslie question that you had here. We'll get to it next time. Grant, please do me a favor. Next time she's on, just DM me the question. You don't have to send a super chat. We'll get it in there, but we're just running up against the clock tremendously here. This was supposed to be a dry run for KGRA, and we're supposed to end the show 10 minutes ago. We were like, all right, today's a dry run for KGRA. KGRA would have cut the show 10 minutes ago. But it is what it is, man. I mean, we didn't have to cut it, so we didn't. We gave Melinda as much room as we possibly could for her to stretch her wings. And there was another super chat in here real quick. I think there was two more. Let me see if I can get to them real quick. Did I lose them? Okay, here's one from Haley Masbrook. Rather, I'm so proud of you today. Good questions. And I think there was a $5 one here from Alex Milius, who said, Luis, I told you, bud, your platform has a better use of everyone's time. Respectfully, this is just turning into a coast to coast. Please think about this, man. Okay, so clearly Alex did not enjoy the conversation. But look, we have to, everybody is complaining and saying, oh, well, we need room for the experiencers. We need room for this conversation to be had. It's not just about Lou Elizondo in 2017 in the New York Times article. There's been 60 years of history to this. There's thousands of hundreds of thousands of people that have been abducted. Like, we're ignoring it. We're ignoring it. And to be honest, we've been ignoring it. Like, this channel has been ignoring it because it's a hard conversation to have. Because clearly someone's been through something. I can relate to it because I've also had an experience. So I don't want to just throw out the baby with the bathwater. But at the same time, we have to stay grounded. We can't fall into logical fallacies, as Michael says. You know, we have to be as, what can I present to a senator, right? And this part of the conversation is very difficult right now to put on a senator's desk and say, all right, I'm walking away. You handle that. It's hard. It's really, really hard. But before we get out of here, let's start with you. What did you think? Where's your head at?
Yeah, I think Melinda, is telling her truth as she knows it, right? I think she believes everything she says. I don't think that I'm right there with her. I think there's a lot of things that I find contentions with, and I don't, go to the same conclusions that she might draw. But I think that it's there's definitely something weird happening to people, whether it's alien abductions or other psychological effects or something. I think it's worth getting to the bottom of. And yeah, I'd be really interested in having a more of kind of an in-depth conversation with Melinda when she comes back.
Oh, she's definitely going to come back. But I think we also have to be clear, like, this is not just Melinda's aspect or viewpoint. This is her research that she's been to groups, she's read the books, she's talked to the therapist, she's researched every aspect of this and has actually taken the time to do it, whereas we are kind of just sitting here listening to it and going, it's easy to go, I don't believe it. Our job is easiest out of the two. Is that fair?
Well, yeah, and it's mostly it's something that is hard to get hard evidence for, right? So with the lack of that, it's it's hard to convince someone who hasn't experienced it that it's real.
No, and that's the whole thing. And that's why I asked her. You can understand for sitting in somebody else's shoes who's never had an experience, who doesn't know somebody who's had one. This is a hard pill to swallow. But this is why we're talking about it, because we want to be able to digest this as the best way we can in a responsible way, where we're not giving out bad information. We're trying to hold the feet to the fire. But we got to get through her whole presentation before we can ask all the questions that we want, right? I mean, I think that's fair. So, Michael, where are you at on it?
I mean, I completely agree with Rather and you. I mean, to me, it reminds me of the fallacy that we talked about on the Singularity Lab a few days ago. This idea that because a claim has been proven wrong or has been argued poorly means that there's not a there. And so I don't know what the there is underneath everything that she shared and all the experiencers shared. I think for me, it's about being a decent human and hearing people out. But at the same time, it doesn't mean I need to, or anyone needs to, jump in and blindly believe them based on their interpretation of the evidence. And I think it's important next time when we talk to her that we go into it with a very open mind and talk ahead of time and say, look, we're going to ask you tough questions, but please don't be on the defensive. Please know that we're just trying to get as much information on the table as possible so people have the ability to make up their own minds. So that's where I'm at.
I can understand, though, how someone could get defensive really quick on this, because the best example that really struck a chord with me that she used was, imagine you had a car accident or you were in a car accident and you went to therapy to explain and work through the traumatic experience of this car accident. No one's going to question you. No one's going to put this shadow of doubt over your story or over your head, right? So why are we so quick to do it with this? And I would venture to say, because a car accident happens every day. People have seen a car accident. People know who've been in car accidents. Whereas with this, it's much more rare than a car accident, I feel. And so, but I can understand that, like, this person just had an accident. This person just had trauma, and sitting in our shoes, which is the easiest shoes to play, this Monday morning quarterback, to be like, to put our opinions out there is the easiest part of this. She's got the most difficult job, and it's telling her story, which, like she said, and even for me for a long time, it was difficult to share the details of the things that I saw. But I agree with both of you. Like, we're figuring this out as we wade through it. So, Alex Milius, all I'm saying is be patient. We're trying to provide a platform where people don't feel left out of the conversation. But we also want to explore these parts of the conversation that are difficult to explain, explore, think about, accept, deny. Like, this part of the topic will take you through every gamut of emotion. And we saw that in our chat. Like, people were angry. People were thrilled with Melinda's evidence. People were sympathetic. People were apathetic. I mean, there was all sorts of emotions running through here. And that's fair, because it's difficult. It's a difficult thing to talk about, but I appreciate you guys being here for it. Cause that was, I had fun. I liked listening to this stuff. I like, expanding my way of thinking, but we also have to stay grounded. We just have to. And it's hard, especially from our show's standpoint. We're trying to convince senators and congressmen, and I don't think I would lead with this. But it's something that I would say to a senator or congressman, if they gave me the time, you might want to look into this too. It's pretty wild.
It's part of ufology, so
it's part of ufology. And here's the bottom line: like, if this phenomenon turns out to be true, which I think we all, or even think just a little something is there, we're gonna have to have this conversation. At some point, this conversation is going to have to be had, because we're eventually, at some point, if we get the answer as to what's controlling these crafts, where do you think the conversation is going to go next? Like, it's going to go here. It's going to go here. So we have to learn how to talk about it. So with all due respect, Alex, that's why the platform's here, man. Like, we're not trying to further confuse people. We're trying to have the intellectual conversation about it, but also try and be respectful to the trauma and the stories that people are sharing, because that's not easy to do. So I hope you stick with us. We appreciate the $5 donation, truly. Before we get out of here, last super chat, $10 from Artisan Tony. I have noticed a fallacy culture on the internet, and its religion is criticizing instead of searching for answers. That's true. That's a true statement. Thank you, Artisan Tony, for the $10 donation. I think that's a beautiful way to end this conversation. Before everyone gets out of here, of course, I want to remind you we have the podcast available pretty much right after the show on Spotify, iTunes. Check out the Patreon. Thank you guys so much for the super chat. Moderator Tina Tomaszewski, like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. That way you don't miss any of these conversations. This Tuesday, The Daniel Miller show is going to be premiering. We're literally going to have a name by the end of this show. And yeah, and we got KGRA with our first guest on KGRA on Friday will be John Greenwald. So check it out. This is going to be a really, really fun next step for the show. So
it will be the opposite show of tonight's show.
Yeah, it will definitely be about 20 minutes shorter. That is for sure.
No, it will be the opposite.
With all of that out of the way, you guys, want to say thank you to the sponsor, Blue Marlin Chronicles. Want to say thank you to DOS Tapes. Thank you all so damn much for coming aboard, getting weird with us here on another episode of the Unidentified Celebrity Review. Your home for credible news, reviews, and commentary on everything UAP and UFO. My name's Luis Jimenez. Until next time, you guys, stay safe out there. Peace. I'm going to tell y'all right now, all of these wonderful people would not be here without Patreon supporters like you. If you enjoy credible news, reviews, and commentary on UFOs and UAPs 5 days a week, you want to support this show. What's your name? Marty. Marty, look how easy this is, Marty. Pick up your phone. Boom! You're a Patreon member. I mean, look, it's so easy. You just click the link, which is right here. Just for $1 a month, you can support this show. Just fill out the information and pledge what's comfortable for you. It could be $1, $5, $10, or who knows. Just support.
I believe you're enjoying all this. Indeed, Captain. I've never seen him look so happy.
Shut up.
Shh. Shh.
Well, what do you know? I finally got the last word.